Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our weekly Sovereignty Zoom Out events. It is our pleasure to introduce our guest tonight, Ken Abramowitz. Ken is a renowned threat analyst, author, investor, and one of the strongest voices in the United States advocating for Israel and Western civilization. He's the founder of Save the West, a widely read national security platform, and the author of the best selling book, The Multi Front War, in which he argues that democracies face interconnected threats that must be understood as part of a larger global struggle. What makes Ken unique is his ability to take extremely complex geopolitical developments and explain them in a clear, logical, and accessible way. His presentations are known for connecting events that many people see as separate and revealing the larger strategic picture behind them. For many years, Ken has been and still is. Ken is a steadfast friend of Israel. He serves on the boards of several pro Israel organizations and has consistently argued that Israel is not only defending itself, but also serving as a frontline defender of the values and freedoms shared by the democratic world. Ken is also no stranger to the sovereignty movement, a dear, dear friend. He has spoken at sovereignty youth events and has encouraged young people to understand that they are engaged not only in a physical struggle, but also in a battle of ideas and values. As he told our youth movement, I quote, "We're fighting a physical war and a cultural war, which is just as important as the physical war." Tonight, we are privileged to hear his analysis of one of the most important issues facing Israel and the free world today. Please join me in welcoming our dear friend, Ken Abramowitz. Ken, the floor is yours for up to 30 minutes. I understand you want to speak maybe a little less because you like question and answers. Go for it. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, great to be with you today. So I thought what I would do is discuss the current big issue of the day, which is what's happening with the American-Iran deal. And then also discussing what does it mean for sovereignty, Judea, Samaria, and everything you're directly concerned with. So let's start with the bigger picture, then we'll get to the smaller picture. So for the bigger picture, we have a very confusing memorandum of understanding that hasn't been shown to the public yet. I saw that Israel asked for it, and the Trump administration didn't give it to them, although it gave it to Qatar and Turkey, which is like pretty strange. But anyways, it seems like there's a two-part agreement here. Although the concept of agreeing with Iran on anything is laughable, but theoretically, there's two parts here. So part number one is let's open up the Strait of Hormuz. Let's get the oil flowing. America ends its blockade. Iran ends its blockade, and the oil flows. Gas prices come down. Inflation comes down. The world economy does better. Everyone's economy does better, and we have happiness and bliss until the midterm elections, roughly November 5th. So I think President Trump made a political decision more than a military decision or a foreign policy decision. I think his staff convinced him, or he convinced himself, that he has to move now to get the prices down. People make their decisions over the next, not so much in the summer, but in September, October, they make their decisions as who to vote for. And he wanted to remove Iran from the voting issues facing the various Republican candidates. He wanted to remove inflation, remove higher prices of gas from it, and created this unusual mechanism where all the issues are discussed later. In other words, they didn't agree on any issue other than opening the Strait of Hormuz. And even Iran, they didn't said that after 6 months, I'm going to start charging fees. So they haven't even resolved that one. But anyways, for 2 months, they've resolved the issue that's most visible to the public. And politically, that's good. Now, then there's a sixth, by the way, Iran says that Israel has to get out of Lebanon. And you say to yourself, where did that come from? This is an agreement between America and Iran. What does Lebanon have to do with this? Can you imagine, just pretend that you're buying a house from somebody and you agree on the price, whatever it is, and you say, okay, the deal's going to go through, but it's contingent on my neighbor, who I haven't even talked to, selling his house for half price. And you go, you didn't talk to him about that? What does that have to do? What does your neighbor's house have to do? You have a house, you're selling it to somebody. That's the only relevant thing, not what the neighbor's doing or not doing. So the Trump negotiators did a terrible job on this issue. They should have said, this is between America and Iran, has nothing to do with Lebanon. Not even a discussion point. But they didn't do it. And then when Iran threw it in, they didn't say, well, it's not it. And so that was a mistake by the Trump negotiators, Witkoff and Kushner, who I don't think are very good negotiators. But anyways, so that has to, then that puts pressure on Israel and puts tension between America and Israel, and there should be no tension between America and Israel. It's not in America's interest for Israel to get out of Lebanon any more than it's in Israel's interest to get out of Lebanon. You want another October 7 massacre? I don't think so. It's not good for Israel, but it's not good for America. Remember, America only really has one ally in the world, and it's Israel. Everyone else is sort of allies. And so you don't ask your ally to do something that's not in their interest. I come from the business world. Whenever I've been in negotiations with anybody over anything, no one ever asks somebody to do something that's not logical. Can you imagine you're buying a company, let's just pretend it's worth $10 million, and you say, okay, sell it to me for $2 million. They go, excuse me, I have a $10 million company. What do you mean? So you wouldn't ask someone to sell a $10 million company for $2 million. That's not the way you negotiate with people. You might want to say, I want to pay 9 million for it. That's a normal response. But you don't ask someone to do something directly against their own self-interest. So America, again, America negotiators are off the wall on this issue, asking Israel to do something that's not in Israel's interest and not in America's interest. I'm like mystified here. So, anyways, I assume that they'll resolve that, but Iran can always use it as an excuse. So, I don't think we should remove our blockade until Iran gets rid of this irrelevant, extraneous issue of Lebanon. But President Trump is so anxious to get the price of oil down and the price of gas down. I read somewhere, I never know what you believe, when you read on the internet or YouTube, or, you never know what to believe. But theoretically, America is allowing Iranian ships to pass through the blockade with their oil, even though we haven't resolved the Hezbollah issue. Well, that's mystifying. But anyways, let's go to the second issue. The second issue, which is like the 90% of the issues, which is what is Iran going to do with their nuclear weapons program? What are they going to do with their highly enriched uranium? I think about 1,000 pounds. What are they going to do with their modestly enriched uranium? I think 9,000 pounds. Who is America going to take it out of Iran? How are we going to get it? Are they going to let us get it? I heard they just put cement over the highly enriched uranium canisters. Well, that's not very encouraging. And then you have other issues like, how about enrichment capabilities? And how can they have any? The answer is no. And how long can they have them for? The answer is nothing, zero. And then I see that the administration's agreed to 15, 20 years of enrichment abilities. What? Why would so? But again, I don't know whether to believe that or not to believe it. And then you have the issue of the proxies. Iran runs the largest terror organization ever put together in the history of the world. It's at least 600,000 and could be as many as 1 million worldwide terrorists. They have about 300,000 physical terrorists, mostly in the Middle East. But they also have sleeper cells. How many sleeper cells do they have in Europe and America? I don't know. But let's just say there's 300,000 because they did calculate that. They have about 100,000 narco terrorists, and they have about 200,000 cultural terrorists. That would be mosques, schools, books, teaching the false narrative of the Shiite Islamo-Nazi death cult. Well, I don't want anyone teaching about death cults to 6-year-olds so that when they become 18-year-olds, they start killing people because they've been trained by death cult teachers. So those I call cultural terrorists. And then, but you put it together, it's 600,000 on the low side and 1 million on the high side. Well, how is that going to be handled? Are they going to have to fire 1 million terrorists? Do they give them pink slips? You know, an expression in America, when you fire somebody, they get a little piece of paper. Is that part of the deal? Well, all of this, by the way, are they going to stop executing 1,000 people a year? Are they going to pay compensation to the 50 to 80,000 people that they massacred a few months ago? Because all these issues have to be resolved before any funds can be allowed into Iran, other than the money they're obviously going to get from the oil. So I hear talk that Qatar has agreed to give them $25 billion. I don't know if it's a gift or a loan, and I don't know if it's real. But they can't have any money from anywhere. America has to say no money from anyone. Either America, sanctions relief, money deposited in other banks in other countries. I don't care where you have the money. It's not going to you, because if we send it to you, you're just going to hire more terrorists. And then what good does that do? Instead of 1 million terrorists, you'll have 2 million terrorists. So anyways, all those issues have to be resolved over a 60-day period of time, of which there's 0% chance they will resolve those issues. Because you can't negotiate with terrorists, you can't negotiate with death cults, you can't negotiate with criminal organizations. So at the end of 60 days, President Trump's going to say, we're really close to a deal. I can't believe it, how close we are to a deal. Another 30 days. And then there'll be another 30 days. And then, oh, wow, we are really close to a deal. And then another 60 days, and then the elections. So I think he just wants to move this mess out of the public eye during this election period of time. And then the question is what happens in November or December. And no one knows, but I'll guess that America and Israel go back to blowing up Iran. And if America doesn't want to fight, all America has to say is to Israel, look, we lost our will to fight because we're half European, and we've adopted the European disease of unwilling to protect our people. And so you go protect the people. We'll give you the weapons, and America supplies 2/3 of Israel's weapons, anyways, and Israel will do the job. So I wouldn't be surprised if Israel in November, December ends up blowing up Iran and saving Western civilization, saving Israel, saving America, saving the Sunni Muslim countries, the Arab countries, saving the Hindus in India. And then you come back to the big question, why is little Israel, with 10 million people, 8 million Jews, nominated to protect 2.5 billion Christians, 1 billion Hindus, 2 billion Sunni Muslims? Why doesn't anyone protect themselves? Why is little Israel doing this? And I'm going to give you the answer. Little Israel represents Judaism, and Judaism is the foundation of Western civilization. 3,800 years ago with Abraham, and then codified 500 years later with Moshe Rabbeinu and the Ten Commandments and the Torah. No one else is the mother. As you know in life, there's only one mother. It's not like there's two mothers, okay? So now you can have aunts and uncles and cousins, but you can't have a second mother. So the Christians are basically cousins of ours, but they're not the mother of Western civilization. They're not the mother of the rule of law. They're not the mother of morality. They're not the mother of the Ten Commandments. They're the cousin. And cousins don't behave like mothers. So it's actually logical that the mother of Western civilization should rise up and save Western civilization because the cousins, aunts, and uncles are unwilling to protect it because it's not their baby. It's a Jewish baby, which others have adopted, but only the Jewish mother cares about civilization. That's the sad reality. So let me stop on Iran, and now let me mention a couple of minutes on sovereignty, and then we can take a few questions until I guess we get to 7:30. So what does this mean for sovereignty? Well, there's good news and bad news. The good news is nobody's focused on sovereignty. I mean, within Israel, they are, but I mean, the world, the Western world, they're focused on Iran, they're focused on oil and fertilizer and natural gas, a whole variety of economic things. So this would be a good time for the sovereignty movement. On the negative side, President Trump's administration, President Trump actually has two administrations. In President Trump's brain, he actually has two brains, so to speak, or portions of brains. He has an America First brain and America Alone brain. Now, Republicans are roughly 75% America First, 25% America Alone. President Trump sometimes goes back and forth. One day he's America First, which is what we voted for, and one day he's America Alone, which we didn't vote for. And so President Trump was America First until the 38th day of bombing, and then suddenly flipped to America Alone, a compromise, negotiations, and things like that. So with the ascendancy of his aides and staffers, of America Alone folks, who, by the way, should have been fired long ago, but they weren't, they can be extra vigilant to try to get Israel not to expand in Judea and Samaria. And they might be ultra sensitive to moves like this. So you put it together, there's good news and bad news, call it a net neutral for the sovereignty movement. But let me conclude with an American expression. We use this expression in the oil industry. President Trump, the question was, what sources of energy should we develop? And the answer is all sources of energy. And there was an expression that was developed politically called drill, baby, drill. Drill, baby, drill. It's just an expression. It doesn't matter. We need oil. Just drill it. I don't know, wherever it is, unless there's some huge ecological reason not to drill in, if you find oil in Manhattan, in the middle of New York City, you're not going to put an oil well. Okay, but I'm just saying in general, it's drill, baby, drill to whatever is logical. Okay, so my corresponding sentence to that is build, baby, build for Judea and Samaria. Build, baby, build. So just build communities, build bigger communities, build bigger farms. Farms use up a lot of area. Move those fences and buy more sheep or reproduce more sheep. Do something, but fill up the land either with farms, communities, bigger communities. And so, to me, the net conclusion is build, baby, build, till the Mashiach comes. So that takes care of me. That's about 20 minutes. It leaves 10 minutes left over if anyone wants to ask a question about something.
First of all, I want to say thank you. Somebody here, Julie, is asking, but how does the time? Oh, wait, Julie, where's what you just wrote? Hold on. 1 second. What did you? How does the timing you explained for the Americans work for our own elections? It seems like the right could lose if the Iran issue is unresolved in the fall, or if any withdrawal from Lebanon is required. It's a very good question by Julie from Zichron, who's also an archaeologist and who is with us on the sovereignty movement. And we have 2 elections coming up. And if God forbid, exactly, Julie asked the question perfectly. What'd you say?
Yes, and President Trump, as he's become President Trump number 2, which I call America Alone president, not America First president. The America Alone staffers are in general anti-Semitic. So he's now picking fights with Netanyahu. And I'm saying to myself, why would you pick fight with Netanyahu? Israel just joined with you and blew up 25,000 targets, roughly half and half for each country. You should be kissing Israel, thanking Israel, not creating a fight with Israel. And so I'm saying to myself, there's something strange going on here. So Iran's purposely throwing Lebanon in there to create distance between Trump and Israel. And then Trump publicly said that Netanyahu is very difficult. And J.D. Vance publicly said that this is a wonderful deal for America. Israel may not like it. Well, what kind of an ally signs a deal that you won't like? Can you imagine, you interview me about, I'm buying a house, pretend I say, oh, it's a great house for me. Oh, my wife doesn't like the house. She doesn't like the price. She doesn't like the location, but I'm happy. Well, what kind of family would run on that basis? Okay, so that was an anti-Semitic statement by J.D. Vance that Israel's not happy and we're not going to do anything about it to calm down their anxieties. And so, and President Trump publicly said, well, maybe Bibi's not going to run another time. He's getting old, and maybe someone else should. Well, that was a direct slight against Bibi, and the reason why is because the anti-Semitic America Alone folks are getting to Trump's brain and convincing him that the Jews are the problem. The reason we don't have peace in the Middle East, it's the Jews. And the reason why Israel's so uncompromising, it's Netanyahu. And we need to have a marshmallow, incapable prime minister there that we can just order and they'll shut up and do what we order, even though it's against America and Israel national security interests, because according to America Alone folks, they're not only anti-Semitic, they're also agents, either directly or indirectly, of Qatar, Iran, basically our Chinese, our foreign enemies. So it's not just an issue of America Alone. They're compromised. And they're anti-Semitic, and Trump shouldn't be listening to. But somehow they've gotten to his brain, and he's convinced that the Jews could prevent the Republicans from winning in November, and he's taking out that misconception on Netanyahu. Netanyahu, I'm sure, will resist that, and I expect both Netanyahu to win, and I expect the Republicans to win. But Trump is making it actually more difficult for Republicans to win and more difficult for Netanyahu to win. And he's acting against his own self-interest and America's self-interest, because the America Alone folks do not represent America's self-interest. The America First, the 75% of Republicans represent America's self-interest, not the America Alone, the anti-Semitic, compromised Qatari agent, Iranian agents. So President Trump has a little fight going on within the administration with some bad guys misadvising him. But anyways, I'm still hopeful that the sources of good will defeat the forces of evil in the two elections coming up.
Thank you. Julie, I would like, with your permission, Ken, to add that basically the issue of Israeli elections obviously is less Ken's entourage, but we have to, in Israel, make sure to wake up people, to make them understand what Ken just said. We're going to take this video, with your permission, Ken, and we will post it because it's being recorded, right? We have your okay to promote your video, this Zoom.
Sure. But I'm worried when you send the Zoom out to a billion people, will it still reproduce a billion times? I'm worried about your abilities.
And we have to work very hard within Israel to convince and make people understand that this government has to continue. This government received only 4 years to correct the damages of the Oslo process over 40 years, and they need to be able to continue with amazing people like Smotrich and Orit Struk, who are doing a revolution, but they need more time and they need more years in office. And that's my response, Julie, if you allow me, that we have to work, each and one of us, very hard to make people understand what's going on. God forbid what could happen if, God forbid, somebody else will come into power. And we'll talk about that on another Zoom, because now the Zoom is with Ken. Any other questions?
Let me just,
Anybody open? You can open your microphone and ask a question. Otherwise, we'll say thank you. Yes, Ken, you wanna
yeah, let me just add one thing to what you said. When I'm speaking to people about elections, whether it's in Israel or America, they say, "Oh, I like this candidate. I like that candidate." Okay, fine. I say, by the way, pretend just for 1 minute that you're evil. Pretend you're the supreme leader of Iran. You're President Putin. You're President Xi. Who do you want as prime minister? Oh, I don't want Bibi. I say, now you know why you want to vote for Bibi, right?
Yeah,
Because if the enemies don't want him, then you want him.
exactly. Somebody just said thank you. 1 second. Somebody wrote without a name. I just want to thank what he says. Excellent message, Ken. I could hardly agree with your assessment anymore than I do. Thank you for hosting this Zoom. Ken, thank you very much. And we have a lot of work. It's Ken Friedman. Here, I see now. It's Ken saying, Ken Friedman saying thank you to Ken Abramowitz.
Okay, good.
And thank you to all of you who are on this chat. We will post it and please forward it. I think the message that Ken just gave us are very, very important to understand what's going on. We have a lot of work, but Bezrat Hashem, God is on our side and Am Yisrael Chai. And one thing I want to add, Ken, with your permission, farms are very important. The yeshuvim are very important, but it's all temporary as long as there's no application of Israeli sovereignty in order to defend and protect and make sure all those farms and all the incredible projects of this government will be staying with us forever. We also need the application of Israeli sovereignty. That's what we're promoting. Settlement and sovereignty together, Am Yisrael Chai, which is victory.
Right. Yes, you're 100% right.
Call to Tada, and thank you to Alel, and of course I represent Yehudit here, and thank you to Renee and all of the staff. Call to Shalom Shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
Thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.